All right, so now that we've got this our base done here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start showing you how to add some shadows in a way to speed it up. Now, a couple things that I can do with this, by the way. I did notice that my hair, looking at the hair here, feels too dark compared to the photograph. If I take this off, looks like the hair is much darker. So this is a nice thing about digital. Once again, I can easily change stuff. So I'm just going to come in here on the hair. I'm going to hold my command or my control button down if I'm on a PC and click on that layer. It selects everything in the layer. I go to, I can use a paintbrush and I'm going to go up here. I'm going to select a very dark brown color, except that I'm on the skin layer and I'm going to go to the hair layer. Let's try that one more time. And I'm just going to paint this in. Da, 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 done. I'm going to go back and I'm going to do the same thing. Command click on the hair 2 layer and same color. Just fill over everything that I've got in there. All right, because what'll happen is if I put the light hair on top of it later on, it'll look more natural because the deeper hair is in shadow. Okay, so enough of that. So I'm going to hit Command D to deselect, or Control if you're on a PC. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. What I've done with this is on the photograph, looking at the photograph, in here I've gone through and I have traced a line where it turns from light to dark. Now, some places, like around here, it's pretty obvious where it changes. Up here is much more subtle, but you know what? You have to start somewhere, and this is just going to be a base. All right. So I'm going to turn my skin back on. Remember, I'm going to look over at my actual photograph to see what color I want to work with. I go to my skin layer. I hold my Command or Control button. I click with my mouse. It automatically selects every pixel on that layer. I cannot paint outside this. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to choose my color that I think matches the shadow, the general shadow of my skin in my photo over there. I'm going to change my brush to soft edge brush. I'm going to do 100% no pressure opacity. I could keep the size on right there, but I'm not going to worry about it just too much. I'm mostly using the mouse pad to change my brush size, or you can use your brackets. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm on the skin layer, check, okay. So I'm going to go through here and I'm going to fill in the whole shadow side the same color. Don't get persnickety about what is what yet. We're going to fine tune it later. This is just a rough, okay. Don't worry about facial details like the eyes and the lips and stuff like that. We can put that stuff on top later. So notice I keep changing my brush size around a little bit. There's some shadow here. There's some shadow around the eye well. There's usually shadow around the eye well, like so. And as I said, I'm going to fine tune the shape in a little bit. Okay. Now, one thing is if you look up at her, on her forehead on her photograph, it subtly blends out from this medium to this light. So if I want to do that, I'm going to put my brush size back up. I can turn either my pressure opacity on, um, or I can turn my opacity down, especially if you only have a mouse to work with, which I know a lot of people do. And I can build this on, and I can build a more subtle blend in. But the idea is to block these in very, very quickly, not sit there and obsess about getting every little detail. Do this first. All right, there we go. And you keep doing that. You could do the same thing with the blouse. You could do the same thing, and we can go through and do some highlights. In fact, I'm going to pause and do a little bit of that here right now. One sec. Okay, so I've gone through here and I'm setting up a lighter color. So I've got my base, my shadow. I'm going to set up a highlight. If you want and you don't have pressure sensitivity, you can go and drop this down to about 25 or 30% and build it in a little bit. But I'm going to look for highlights that I see over on the photo to my right. This is why I use the photo. So she's got some highlights on her nose. She's got a highlight here along the bridge of her nose. Once again, don't obsess about getting it perfect right now. Okay, so the right side of her forehead, cheekbone, and let's see here, definitely the side of her neck down here, under her jawline. We'll build some of that in. And there's also going to be some small parts on her ear. I noticed, by the way, that I missed the shadow right there in the ear. I can hold my Alt button, come back here, sample from this. Now this is going to be 100%. I'm just going to put her up here, and I'm going to fill that shadow in on the ear section. And we're going to fine tune it some more from here, but this gives you a very nice base. You've got your medium, you got your dark, you got your light, and then we go through and we start fine tuning the details. But this doesn't take very long. That's the key. Okay, so some final touches. You can see I've gone through and I've done the same thing on the blouse. I just went through onto this layer, held down my command button, clicked on the picture of the layer, selected everything in the layer because now I can't go outside of it. So for instance, here I'm going to undo this, but if I paint this section in and I go outside of it, nothing happens. Okay, so not a big deal, but I basically go through painting my shadows. I could do a little bit of highlights if I need to, go up to a light pink and just start blocking some of this stuff in. If since these are pretty small little subtle changes, I don't want to be quite that harsh. I'll go through and once again, don't want to obsess too much about this right away, but I sort of block these highlights sections in, and I'm going to fine tune the actual shape of these a little bit more with a smudge brush a little bit later on. But there you go, base.